Are you always coming up with ideas? Do you marvel at successful business owners? Do you hate being told what to do? Ever take things apart just to see how they work? Are you a dreamer? If you've answered yes to any of these questions, this podcast is for you. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Pro Tapes and Specialties is the world leader in tape manufacturing and specialty conversion with over 40 years of experience. In addition to our Pro brand of high-quality specialty adhesive tapes, we provide contract converting services that help improve your profitability, streamline your supply chain, and reduce inventory cost. We offer the most complete range of converting capabilities in the industry, such as cloth tape, double-coated tape, specialty tape, paper tape, masking tape,
vinyl tape, carton sealing tape, adhesive transfer tape, duct tape, foam tape, electrical tape, filament tape, foil tape, reflective tape.
And the tape just keeps on rolling. Visit us online today at www.protapes.com or call us at 800-345-0234. Pro Tapes, it's just how we roll.
Welcome to another fantastic episode of the Entrepreneur Enclave, Life's Coming Attraction. I am your host, Kevin Wortham. This is probably going to be my best podcast that I've done in quite some time. I've got the young lady on the other line, Marge Smith, the professor of the not-for-profit world. Marge, welcome to the platform. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be talking about this topic because I'm really enthusiastic about the difference that people can make and how we can transform our lives. And I think that at this particular time, we have so many challenges. Yes. I would hope that the nonprofits and individuals would step up to the plate because it's not just one person who can make a difference. Each one of us has the capacity to change something.
Absolutely. And I think what's so interesting, Marge, is I think that as we're coming out of the pandemic, so many people have been starting businesses, and not just businesses, but not-for-profits, just to reiterate what you were saying. And the thing that I want us to really talk about today is the beginnings of putting together a not-for-profit. Everybody wants to help, but they don't know how to start. They know that they want to help a group of people for a myriad of reasons, but they don't know how to start the foundation, right? The not-for-profit.
Right.
And so what would be the first thing that you would suggest someone needs to know or do in order to start the not-for-profit?
Well, I think that they need to be very clear about what they want to accomplish.
Yes.
And make sure there's not someone else in the neighborhood or somewhere around that's doing the same thing.
Yes.
Because I don't know what you found, that people are duplicating each other's efforts and maybe collaboration and working with other people. But you need to be clear about what you want to accomplish.
Yes.
I mean, what is your mission? And then set up a structure that can make it happen. Because a lot of people want to make a difference and they have great ideas and missions, but only will happen. We need more than hope. Although somebody said recently that hope is hard work. But that's why hope is hard work. We need more than hope. We need a board and we need people who really have the skill sets to make it happen.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I know you've done a lot of work in this arena too. What would you say?
Well, so like you, the first thing I would say is put together a draft of your board. Who do you need on your board? And then maybe prior to that, you try to eke out as best you can your strategic plan or business plan. Because at some point the board members that you are looking to approach are going to want to know, what are we doing? What's your mission?
Right.
So let me see your business plan, let me see your strategic plan, and let me see what we can do, because that's going to allow us first and foremost to attract other board members, right?
Right, right. I think it's key to define your mission
Yes.
and find out people. And well, also, it's key to be addressing a need. What
Yes.
does the community need?
Yes.
I mean, I think good nonprofits are based on serving people's needs. And so when your mission, you think about how is my mission connected to the need. And I tend to, because I like to teach, and I think we have multiple ways of learning.
Yes.
One of the ways of your group when they first come together to think about things, it sounds kind of crazy, but it really works, is for people to have a picture, literally pictures that you
Yes.
post up that you can tear out of all these different magazines. They select it, they put a picture up, and they talk about, and then you look, everyone posts a picture because we are so visual
Yes.
that we are not really reading that much. So if you can get people, or even the people in the community, what do you think is needed? What do you want to have happen? And look at the pictures and then say, okay, what do they have in common?
Yes.
And then you articulate your mission based on people's needs or what they have. Because sooner or later, we need more than words. We need visuals to emphasize the difference that we can make.
Love it.
And then after you have the pictures and you say, okay, so then you raise the issue about what do we want to do?
Yes.
And one of the interesting things is if you have a mission, what do we need to start doing? Or even what do we need to stop doing? What do we need to start doing? Is there any we're stopping? Well, sometimes people go around, even like with a small group, you're just forming something. Well, people could say, we're wasting a lot of time just doing this. We need to we need to start really defining a mission, have it written. Then what do is there anything we see other groups doing that we think we should do? So start, maybe restart, continue, and accelerate. So somehow when you look at what you need to make happen, you have to prioritize the steps necessary to achieve that goal.
Yes. Yes. Now the other thing that I would add to that too, Marge, would be at some point as the board is becoming stronger and deeper committed to this mission, it might be a good time for a board retreat.
Oh, absolutely. And that brings up another point. When you look at who do you get on the board,
Yes.
once you think about what you want to accomplish, what skills do you need to make it happen?
Yes.
And my really simple technique for finding out what skills in the group the people have is to have them write big on 3x5 cards, because you cannot possibly be intimidated by a 3x5 card. So if everybody on the board writes down on 3x5 cards 5 things I like to do,
Yes.
and 3 things I don't.
Yes.
Some people like to talk in public. Some people are good at social media. Some people are good at finances. Some people like to ask for money.
Yes.
And other people will say, I don't like to ask for money. I hate public speaking. And so really you're looking, once you decide on the task, you can look at what skill sets do you need in order to make your mission and vision a reality. And then you think about the kinds of who knows different people, and you want to get diversity on the board, because by having diversity, you expand your grasp of what people's needs are.
Yes.
And it also can model how we can work together and meet people's needs. And that's really important, that everyone feels included and you're clear about the direction you're going.
Yes. Yes.
So that it's so simple. The 3x5 card, or even with your volunteers. If people feel intimidated filling out a form, but anybody can put on that, okay, or just even ask people, what do you like to do? So actually, I'll ask you, Kevin, what do you like to do? We'll find out.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
I love talking, I love networking, and I love helping people raise money.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So do you see how easy people can talk about what they like to do?
Yes.
And so people will be thrilled to have you as a board member, because those are skills that every board needs.
But Marge, I also hate fundraising. No, I'm just,
Yeah, no, people don't. But some people, people make a mistake. I frequently have people discuss, why I give money because.
yes,
And sometimes I give money because I care about this organization. And then I ask people, well, how do I feel when I give money to an organization? I feel good.
yes,
So that raises the issues. Why don't people like people to feel good? Because you're making people feel good if you match their values with the cause or the nonprofit.
yes,
You're not causing them pain. Or the other way, you can ask people, maybe you don't have money, but every single person has some talent
yes,
that can contribute to making a mission happen. And so then finding out what people like to do, they may like to talk in public. They may like to write. They may like to do something on the computer. They may like to photography.
yes.
There's or drive. I mean, if you're doing food, people need food delivered sometimes.
Yes.
So all these skills that can make a difference. So it doesn't just have to be people that have a legal or financial background. When you think about all the volunteers, like whether you're a coach or whether you're in the PTA or whether you're in a church group, there are so many ways that people, particularly after COVID,
Yes.
people need people, and people need to feel part of a community.
Absolutely.
So the board is really key to the functioning of a nonprofit. But don't forget that in order to make it happen, you can enable other people to feel included and valued by designing specific ways that they can make that vision a reality.
So Marge, before we jump into the real question,
is there a real question?
There's a real question.
Okay, a real question. All right, what's a real question?
So what?
Go ahead.
I want to ask this other question before we jump into the real question. What are some no-nos that you've heard people do when they've started not-for-profits, or as they've worked or they've been engaged with not-for-profits? What have been some no-nos that folks have told you that they've done?
I think that they sometimes need to be specific. They're not clear on the direction. And if you're not clear on the direction, there's a book called "If You Don't Know Where You're Going, You'll End Up Somewhere Else."
Yes.
And I think that's true of nonprofits.
Yes.
If you don't know where you're going, how can you put a team together if you don't understand what the goal is?
Absolutely.
So the first thing is to be clear about the mission, and then clarify what steps you're going to take in order to make it happen, because it takes more than wishful thinking. It takes a plan and show people how they can be involved, and not just the board, but perhaps include other people to make it happen.
Yes.
But I think if you're not clear of the direction, you're going to end up somewhere else.
Now
it's pretty simple.
Now, the big question, because when we were prepping for this, we both agree that you and I have such great energy together. We know that there's going to be a part two. So the big question is, why did you start Community Works?
I started Community Works because I was in a lot of different leadership roles in terms of boards and in the community.
Yes.
And what I saw was that there are so many people who want to do good, but the skills that are needed, are somehow missing.
Yes.
And that people deserve to get an education, because what can be more meaningful than the mission of some of these organizations?
Very true.
And it takes more than goodwill. So we brainstormed. I thought, okay, there must be a way of creating a conference that's not expensive.
Yes.
Because I think so many of these conferences are expensive, and by being so expensive, it eliminates. Some people don't have discretionary time,
yes,
and they don't have discretionary money.
Yes.
And so if we are really going to serve the community and enable community work, a conference needs to be designed that addresses the incredible needs of people volunteering and working in nonprofits and is affordable and accessible to all.
Wow.
And so that was my vision. And the other part that I think is so important, anything that I organize or run always has a way for people to get acquainted, because, and no one will want to come after I tell this part, that you really can't sit with the person you came with.
Yes.
Because how are we going to be able to connect if we don't know the resources of other people in the room? Now, the good news is it's not random. Sometimes we had little bags with values in,
yes.
And so we had different colored bags, like you could have a word in it, like inclusion. We brainstormed words that are important for community, like build, connect, energy, positive thinking, finances, all the different things it takes to build community. And then we put 2 rocks in each bag, and we had different colored bags. So if you were purple and I was red bag, I would have to sit in the red section and you would have to sit in the purple section.
Gotcha.
Because you can't just, it's hard. You need to give people ways of talking, having meaningful conversations, not just go up and talk to somebody else.
Yes.
I think it helps to say, you could have them talk, what is your mission, or what are you excited, or what have you accomplished?
Yes.
Because, so that's why I think it's really important in whatever we run or together is that people need to hear the good that's going on. So a question could be, what is something that's gone right in your organization? Because we can learn from other people's successes.
Yes.
And we also need to know that things are going right, because the good that nonprofits and the churches and the PTOs and the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, the fire departments frequently sometimes volunteer, all this good is not promoted on the news or the media.
Yes.
So we're invisible, and this concept of hope is really important. Another, besides hope is hard work, somebody said the word hope is have only positive expectations.
Wow. Or energy. I love it.
Or energy.
Yes. I love it. Yes.
Have only positive energy would be a great word for that, or
yes.
expectations. Because so that means that when we structure ways for people together, they need to share what's going well or right, so we can learn from other people's success, and we know that we can make things happen, because you would never know any good's going on in the current, whatever the situation is in this country. And yet there are so many people really generating a lot of good and a lot of caring and kindness. So I think I think sometimes people make mistakes in not telling the good that's going. It's not bragging. It's absolutely critical for us to know that there is another world out there that's good.
Now, Marge, when did you start Community Works?
Well, I started it about, I was executive director of the YWCA, but then I felt like I wanted to serve more than just one organization. So
yes.
I quit that. And so it might have been like 22 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
And I just thought that I needed to really do something that would bring people together
yes.
and give them training. And I'm a teacher. I love to run workshops and things. So it fit. And then I was teaching. I helped create the certificate program in nonprofit management at Mercer County.
Yes.
So it was really a commitment to enable people to get training, so their wishes or their hopes or their dreams can really come true.
And
they get the skills.
I want to thank you, because I believe that's where you and I first met. I went through your certificate class. And
right.
Yeah. And I think that might have been, wow, maybe 15 years ago?
Yeah, I'm sure. It was like 15 or 20 years ago.
Oh my
So
God.
when you say the word young, the young isn't quite the description,
Yeah.
but I have young energy, but I think
Absolutely.
that is
Yes. Yes.
that's it.
And and
Right.
one of the things I love what you do with Community Works and your team is that for that one evening you bring together a who's who of the not-for-profit world. Now,
Right.
as you were talking and sharing your description as to why you started Community Works, one of the things that came to my mind was, here I am in Trenton, and we've got this huge environment of not-for-profits, but I don't think a lot of them have ever come through your evening seminar or your evening training program. And so I would love to commit myself to helping you identify more of the not-for-profits in the Trenton area that could use that level of engagement.
Right. I'd be thrilled. For the last 2 years the last actually 3 years, because of COVID, we did Zoom.
Yes.
And the design was that it changed quite. We actually had a lot more people participate. Well, no, we had like 500 people every time, 500, 600 people every time. But because it was on Zoom, we ran it for 2.5 days.
Yes.
And it only cost $20.
Gotcha.
Because we didn't have any expenses with food or anything.
Yes.
But I would love to see a way that we could put it together and involve more people or offer something so that just even workshops, maybe once a month or something, that people could come together and learn these techniques and have different places we could do it so both communities come together. Because there are an incredible number of nonprofits in Trenton and all over that, and I think people are excited and they leave inspired by meeting the good people who are doing this work.
One of the challenges, I can't call it it's a challenge. One of the challenges that I'm trying to work through because of what I hear is that in Trenton, which is not of and by itself, there are so many not-for-profits that don't even need to exist. But the reason why they exist is because they're very cliquish in nature. And as you said, when they come together and they have board members who are their friends. And so they do the mission, but they don't have this wide-reaching appeal because they only work with the folks that they want to work with. They only work with the folks that they know. They don't want to step out of their comfort zone to be more inclusive of their whole area in which they need to serve and to be a part of. And so we're very siloed here in Trenton, and we have so many not-for-profits, and you may have 5 or 6 of them all do the same thing.
Well, that's one of the things I think I said when I said, well, if you want to start a nonprofit, yeah. I think I said the word collaborate. Is there someone else doing it? Because we don't necessarily duplicate. We don't need to duplicate each other's efforts. We can enhance each other's efforts or collaborate so that we bring different things to the table. And I just think that it doesn't need to be competitive. I think it needs to be collaborative, not competitive.
Absolutely.
And be sure to, like when we design what workshops we're going to do, we usually do a survey of different nonprofits. What do you see is needed? So that what we're offering is based on a need. And I think that's really important. It doesn't need to be an I win, you lose. It can be a win-win if we figure out how to complement each other.
Well, the biggest challenge there is going to be, how do you let go of the ego? Because a lot of these not-for-profits here in Trenton are based on ego. I don't like you, but I like what you're doing. You and I don't get along together, so you're going to do your own organization. I'm going to do my own, and then it becomes very cliquish in nature as well. So we need to do a major workshop on how to really let go and leave your ego at the door, because we need to have this impact for the greater good of what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. It's funny. You use the word ego.
Yes.
I tend to think of it as a power.
Gotcha.
And there was a guy at Harvard who talked about three kinds of motivation: affiliation, power, and achievement.
Yes.
So the achievement group likes to accomplish the task. The power person likes to have an impact.
Yes.
But he also pointed out that the power could be in power. And so people don't, that is one of the problems sometimes with leadership or individuals,
Yes.
that you get into it for their own power needs.
Yes.
And they don't understand they would have more power if they empowered.
Yes.
Does that make sense? I mean, you have somebody
Perfect
like
sense to
Hitler.
me.
Yeah. So you have somebody like Hitler. You have some of these people who are only I win, you lose. And people say, well, how can they do it? It's because they're into power. They don't understand power can be in power.
Yes.
And that transformation in how people think of in power as a way of gaining power is key. And that's why some people don't delegate either. They want to have total control. And there's not one thing anybody does. We can't even duplicate somebody's handwriting. There is nothing we do. Everyone does things different. So when you delegate it, it's going to be done differently.
Yes.
And you can't tell somebody, okay, you have to do it. It's everything is done differently.
Yes.
But it's this need for power and maybe ego and control. I don't know what. But it's really challenging. That would be a great program. How people talk about how do you shift from ego and power to empower and connection.
Yes.
But they have to change in their brain about how they want to have an impact. Do they want it just for themselves, or do they really want to have an impact for the community?
Now,
that's the basic question.
Now, are you starting the planning for Community Works this year?
Probably no. Well, probably we usually do that in the fall, August or September. Not just yet. But we're going to have we'll have a series of meetings of what kind of people, what do they think is most useful.
Yes.
But we always did it in January, which is a terrible month, and it was freezing. And sometimes, it's a terrible month. There's not much else to do. Like spring people are out there gardening. They're out and about, and graduations. So we always did it for January. But there might be a way of doing these gatherings at different locations so you reach different communities and you connect within. Like we could do something in Lawrenceville. We could do something in Trenton. And use the libraries or something as a way, or community college as a way of offering it so that it would happen.
Well,
I would love to see that happen. Rather than just a one-time event, because Go ahead.
No, I'm feeling your energy, but I'm going to throw it out there, Marge. How about this? How about you do the larger Community Works in January, because I love it being housed on Princeton's campus, and then you can do a smaller one and call it a smaller community, probably in late June, early July, as a lot of not-for-profits start to move into their summer sessions. And that can be at your local community colleges. It could be at the local library. It could be at a small church.
Right. Well, I'm not so sure Princeton is now going to be a possible location because of COVID. Because of all the COVID and everything, they really, I don't know whether I can check it, but I have a feeling that Princeton is no longer going to be an option. But I'll check in. I'll look into it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Because we broke the pattern. It was 3 years, and we did it on Zoom. So we'll have to find another place. I love the fact it said Princeton. Although the parking was, there were a lot of challenges too. Accessibility was a challenge.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Okay. Well, maybe do it at the arena.
Well, that's a possibility.
Right.
That would be kind of interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah. They house 10,000 people. There's adequate parking, right?
Well, why not think big? That's an interesting concept.
What?
And do that is really an interesting concept. I don't have to take a look at it if that would work.
And I'm quite sure they can set it up where we can have, because I'm quite sure they've done expos there before. And
right.
What does the expo space look like, right? And you can just, set up small booths where there'll be expos, and there could be 10 to 20, 25 chairs to each expo booth.
Well, we'll figure. Well,
Yeah.
That's an idea. We can think about it.
Yeah.
That's a really interesting idea.
And Marge, if you and I can make that happen, man, that would be fantastic. And I can bring my podcasting equipment down there so I can interview some of the attendees. That would be fantastic.
Well, we have to put it in spaces so that people feel like they're in a small, a space, not in a, not exhibit. I mean, because you really want to create a sense of connection and engagement, and so we'll have to think about. I'll have to look at it. I'm open to possibilities. I'll go look.
Well, in the exhibition stage format, right? They have those makeshift walls, that are portable, and they go up to like 10 to 12 feet, so you can have another booth, a session going on right next to you, but you couldn't see those participants because there's a wall right there. There's a curtain.
Okay. All right. So if there's a way, I don't know how much it would cost to do that. We'd have to figure it out. But that I like to think big. That's for sure.
I like thinking big with you, Marge, and with our energy, I think we can do it, right? I think we can.
I think if we could afford it, we could probably figure out how to do it. We could have sponsors or something. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you coming down the trend, I think we can do sponsors. I think with the participants, you can charge more, right? Maybe even $75.
Right, but the only thing about it is it's when we start charging $75, it becomes exclusive. Because there's so many people who are really, usually the only people who go to these conferences are people who are board members that have money, or the executive director, or the president of the board. I mean, they're the fundraiser. Because if we are really going to serve community, we need to enable everyone to get the skills. Because otherwise it's elitist. And so I'm kind of the people who do a lot of the hard work never get any training because they can't afford to come and they can't afford to pay it individually. So we'll have to, before we decide on this, first of all, I'd have to check it through our committee or whatever. But I think that, I don't know, we'd have to have it underwritten, somebody who would really underwrite the whole thing so that people could really come. And then, because with community work, everyone is a volunteer. Yeah, every single workshop leader volunteers their time. The whole committee volunteers their time. Mm-hmm. And in terms of that, we'd have to have somebody underwrite what it would cost to run it there. Yeah. And then I think it would be phenomenal.
I would love to pursue this with you. And the other thing too, Marge, maybe if it's underwritten, right, some of the folks who are in the community who perhaps couldn't afford it, the sponsorship portion of that could go for that. But here's the other thing that I know, and I always get into trouble when I say this. People make time for what they have a perceived value for. Listen, I've seen some people go to Greater Ventures and they don't have a pot to piss in. But they find the way. If it was important to them, they find the money to go to Greater Ventures, and Greater Ventures is almost $100 per person now.
Right. No, it's expensive. No, there's no doubt about it. It's expensive.
So people are going to make time for what they have a perceived value for. So, but we can continue to talk through that though. Yes.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
Well, I think that there's lots of ideas we've come up with, but I think that people need to be celebrated for the difference that they're making, and valued, and get some kind of training so that they can be superb. Absolutely. And that we need to focus on the good and what's going right. Because and the other thing that I think is important actually for boards or for a nonprofit is people always look at the goals, but
Yes.
a goal, in order to achieve a goal, you need to look at the small wins.
Yes.
Harvard Business School has something about be sure to acknowledge the small wins. Because when you ask at a board meeting, well, what is something you feel good about accomplishing this week or this month?
Yes.
Those small wins make people want to say what's happening, but it also, you get a sense of moving forward rather
Yes.
than backwards.
Yes.
Too frequently, people focus on what's going wrong. Now, you have to solve those problems, but you need to never forget the other piece of what's going right and what are our small wins, because we're not going to give up.
Yes. I love it, Marge. I love it. It sounds like this is time for us to do a hard stop, but
Right.
I want you, before you leave me, I want you to tell the listening audience one motivational thought that they should be implying or using to kind of keep their not-for-profit moving, or to kind of keep their staff motivated.
Okay.
Yes.
I think gratitude.
Yes.
You know, if you look at every staff member and you look specifically at something that they've done, when you express gratitude, it really makes the person feel valued. And it's not something as, okay, you're great. You have to be specific in order to have credibility.
Yes.
So you are great because you are always on time to the meetings, and I love what you shared about what you've accomplished. Or
Yes.
you're great because you really made an effort to help that person who was in deep trouble, and your ability to listen really transformed her day. So if you are going to create, you need to create positive environments based on gratitude and appreciation.
Yes.
Within, so you have a culture of positivity
Yes.
that will spread. Let's make positivity and gratitude contagious.
Yes.
Let's forget about COVID. Let's make it contagious.
Yeah, very true, Marge. Very true. Listen, Marge, you know, and I know, we both agree that that was part one. Part two is coming, and I'm going to let you go. But Marge Smith, my dear friend, the professor of the not-for-profit world, I thank you. I love you. I adore you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. Go forth.
Absolutely.
Go forth. Thank you.
Let's you and I stay connected, and we'll keep moving forward.
That we will do. Thank you so much.
Okay,
All right,
Marge.
great.
Have a great day, Marge.
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
That concludes another episode of The Entrepreneurial Enclave with Kevin Wortham, the podcast that focuses on building, maintaining, pivoting, planning, and investing in you, the entrepreneur. We hope you found this episode informative and enlightening. If you have any questions or comments about any of our episodes, please call 609-731-9311 or email kevin@minding-our-business.com. We look forward to joining us for our next one. Until next time.